Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Mavpuckcast with Jason
and Jon.
So, Jon, today we have quite a bit to talk about. We're going to start with the Union series.
Very entertaining series out there in Schenectady, New York. Exciting to see the Mavs play their first regular season games. Might not have been the outcome that Mav fans were looking for, but entertaining nonetheless. What were some of your initial thoughts?
I thought they played well. I think, for games that finally started mattering, obviously when we look at Manitoba and that with the exhibition game, there's more room. But now you're playing teams that are your caliber. And so it's nice to see the first games of the season get in the books and learn something, but it's hard to plan a whole season off of 2 games, 1 team.
Definitely so. It was kind of exciting to get to see Dean Stewart get his first goal as a Maverick.
Yeah.
That goal was on the transition, and the transition from defense to offense looked great. I know you're rolling your eyes. I know, me in the transition game. Yeah.
If only the radio could show my eye roll.
Yeah, the radio announcers were totally with me.
Yeah, you had them on your side, which I wouldn't call an accolade.
Well, it is the ECAC. Maybe they don't see that. Maybe they don't see that much great transition hockey going on in the league out there. But certainly the transition on the Dean Stewart goal was a beautiful setup and a beautiful play where he was he trailing? Was it Spinner on that play? I'm trying to remember, or was it Jordan?
I think it was Jordan, actually.
I think it was Jordan.
Jordan had a really good couple games. He was there on a lot of plays, and he was in some pretty good positions on Friday, and then he gets 1 goal on Saturday, right? Yeah.
Yes.
No, he got 2 of them. He got 2 of the goals on Saturday, I think. Right?
Yes, I believe you're...
Yeah. Or did they give
you're right.
Yeah. Because then
you're right.
in between them, right?
2 assists on Friday.
2 assists on Friday.
Yep.
Yeah.
And obviously was a solid player, had a breakout year last season. So yeah, he looked good. And it really was the veteran players this weekend that performed well for the Mavericks.
And that's going to be our season, I think.
Yeah.
We are going to, quote unquote, live or die by what happens with our senior class.
Yeah, as much as we were talking about the freshmen last week because it was the exhibition, it was the first game action we got to see.
First game to see him, yeah.
This week, you're looking at the veterans. You're looking at Tristan Keck. You're looking at Steven Spinner. You're looking at
Olsen.
Zach Jordan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Friday we skated to a 3-3 tie. Let's go and say, who did you notice the most Friday's game?
I would say the Friday game, I probably noticed, it's hard to say, but in the game, I would say probably Tristan Keck the most. I mean, I thought he looked really good in that game. And then I would say, in addition to that, I think Mason Morelli had a good game. I think both of those players played really well. And I think as you went through that game, the UNO gets up 2-0 on Friday night.
Right.
And you're thinking if they could just get one more at that point, maybe they roll, maybe they get into cruise control. But Union wasn't going to let that happen.
Yeah, they came back. They came pretty strong. I think they realized that, for all they lost last year offensively, they still... at least this weekend, had a pretty potent power play.
Well, and that's one of the things Steven Spinner said in the press conference earlier in the week was that they know how to score goals.
Right.
And so he didn't seem to think that would be a problem. I'll be honest with you, too. You look at goaltending, and Evan Wenninger on Friday night, I mean, he made some big saves in that game.
Yeah. And I think the standout player for me... I was really impressed with Pulkkinen. I know he doesn't end up on... I don't think he ends up on the score sheet at all. Does he? I'm looking through it. No. He's not. Yeah, because we got golf from Spinner and Stewart. So, yeah, I mean, I don't... he doesn't show up on the score sheet, but I thought that he used his speed well. I thought he was in good position. I think he also played well on Saturday. But Friday night, I really thought, he was playing pretty close to the top of his game.
Exactly. We've seen 3 games so far, and Timu has been an impact player so far this season, which is impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can keep it up. That's always a question with any hockey player. You start the season well, but can you finish the season at the same note?
Oh, you're absolutely right. But again, I think it comes back to the veteran players this season. And that's what we knew going into the season, I think. And that's the way it is in college hockey and in sports in general. Generally, your upperclassmen are going to be the ones who set the tone and set the pace for the season. And so I think these guys, Friday night was probably the more entertaining game from a fan perspective. It's always tough to lose, which happened on Saturday, but
yeah,
that was tough because Friday could have been a win for this team. It really could have been. The second period was an awfully tough period for them. And obviously Saturday, second period was a tough period too. Yeah.
Well, I think the one thing that jumped out to me, I say negative other than I wasn't impressed with the breakout as you were.
That great transition game.
Transition. I don't know about that. The face-offs. Look at the stats. We lost the face-off battle by all hockey standards. We lost a lot on the face-off circles, and I think that you look. A couple of the goals came after face-off wins. There were opportunities for us where we had an offensive zone face-off, and we couldn't get the win. Couldn't transition from a set play into a scoring chance. And I think that's something the team needs to work on, particularly from Friday night's game. I think that's something they can look at and say, if we were better in the face-off dot, we probably would have had a better outcome Friday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you'd also talked, one of the things that you were talking about during tonight's game as we watched it was the communication between the players on the ice. And that was something that the Union coach mentioned after the Friday game. Was he said part of our problem in the defensive zone was the fact that, players weren't talking to each other. And that led to some breakdowns, and that ultimately led to UNO's goals.
Well, and I think you can say the same thing on the UNO side.
Absolutely.
I think that especially the tying goal, when you've got 4 guys in the box in front of Evan, and all 4 of them are staring at the one guy with the puck. Like, that's the reason why the guy sneaks in behind you. If you don't see that puck coming across, if you don't make that play, it's going to end up in the back of your net, and that's what happened. And to me, it seemed like there's a breakdown in communication. Someone needed to say, where's the point, where's the slot? Like, there's a lot of talk, I know, from playing hockey that goes on to let people know, like, this is my guy, that's your guy, who's watching this area of the ice if you're playing a zone or something. And it was clear on that tying goal, I think, that communication broke down, and there wasn't that going on for the Mavs. So let's move on then, unless you got anything else from Friday's night's game.
No, yeah, we've alluded to Saturday a little bit, but let's move on to that game.
So Saturday, unfortunately, a 5-4 loss. We score more goals, so I guess you could say that's a good thing, right?
We did score more goals. Now, obviously, we've only played 2 games, but you do worry about, the fact that we gave up 3 on Friday.
Right.
5 on Saturday. I mean...
None of them are empty nets that you can just scratch off.
No, they aren't. And so that was obviously the big concern last season, was the fact that we, gave up 3 or more goals per game. And that's a trend that they really want to, and it's not just one thing that you point to on that, but that's one of the trends that they want to be able to turn around this season. So that was a difficult thing. Again, another entertaining game, but that second period was awfully...
Well, yeah, because Union gets 1 in the first, 1 in the third, and they score 5 goals. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, as my niece Lauren said, Evan Wenninger touched the puck more than any other Mav during the second period. She was being a little bit facetious, but it kind of illustrates how tough that period was for the team.
Yeah. Union puts up 30-plus goals both nights. Evan had a workout.
Yeah, he definitely
for the weekend,
did. Yeah.
So.
And like I said earlier, he made some good saves this weekend. It's kind of a tough series. So, Union College is unbeaten now. They started off the season with a victory against Army.
They did.
And they tied Friday and they won Saturday. So who knows how they'll do in the ECAC.
Yeah, and against it, I commend them because they brought in a team that they didn't have a great record against. UNO and had their numbers the last few years that we played them, especially last year with them coming to Omaha.
Yeah, I think the announcers had said 2007 was the last time they had beaten a UNO team.
So yeah, I think going into it, we didn't really talk about it in the last podcast, and we'll talk about the next series coming up later on in this podcast. But I anticipated a UNO win on Friday and a Union win on Saturday, and I think that anytime you look at a situation like that, Union getting the tie on Friday gave them a lot of morale boost that, we can hang with these guys. This isn't.
Well, yeah, especially coming, back from being down 2-0.
Right.
Depending on the circumstances, that might have been, game over, but it wasn't in this instance. We should probably also point out on tonight's game that Kevin Conley got was that his first goal as a Maverick?
His first goal as a Maverick.
Yeah.
On the power play.
Yep.
Really good heads up play for him. He noticed that the defender had fallen down, that he had an opportunity to have a little bit more space in the zone, and he clearly had his head up looking for a pass, and then just chose a shot, and it's wise move for him. So, and I think he had a good weekend. I talked about Pulkkinen, but Conley's another one that I thought he had a lot of good plays on Friday night, but he obviously was a lot more involved, I think, on Saturday. So hopefully that's a trend for him on the upwards, that we'll see more from him later on this season.
And he was the kid who transferred from Denver, right?
DU, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So welcome to Omaha.
Exactly. He'll be a good one for UNO this season.
I know how you feel moving from 5,200 feet to, I don't even know what we are here in Omaha, not 5,200.
Are you from the Denver area originally?
I am, yeah. I grew up in just north of Denver, so.
Okay, and you came to Omaha, was it 2003, 2004?
Yeah, December of 2004.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I've acclimated a bit.
Yeah,
I do understand now, going back to Denver every once in a while, I'm like, altitude does suck.
Are you able to breathe now? Is that... You don't lose your breath as much as you did out.
Till the humidity kicks in, and I'm like, ugh. I miss the dry air.
I think I had heard a stat, and this may be wrong, but there are more sunny days in Denver, Colorado, than any other city in North America. Is that
another major city? Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually beats out LA and stuff. It's crazy.
If it weren't for the snow, it would be a really attractive place because I love visiting Denver. It's one of my favorite cities. So
till we go and lose, and then it's like, why did I ever visit this stupid city?
Yeah, the road trips to Denver are best when we are playing a Denver team that's having a down season for sure.
Preferably ones wearing black and gold. So, one more thing I want to talk about the weekend, I think, just to give props to the team. We talked a little bit about the power play, but Saturday the power play was awesome again.
Yeah.
3 for 6 or 3 for 7? 3 for 7. So, yeah, going 3 for 7, good teams will go 1 or 2 for 7. So, to get that extra goal in there, the power play was working. They were moving the puck pretty well. But then that goes back to my thing about the transition game. You don't have to transition on a power play. So,
no, yeah, special teams play was good for them tonight. So,
well, the penalty.
Excuse me. On the offensive side,
but they did. They went. Union went 0 for 4 on Friday.
Yeah,
we had their number on Friday. Absolutely. I don't know what happened on Saturday because then they go 3 for 5. Yeah, 3 for 5. So
yeah, I don't know. And these, completely dry announcers said they thought we looked tired tonight. I don't know if that was the case or not in that game, but that's...
I don't know what... I hope Gabnet can figure out what it is that that's affecting the team in the second period, because you look at the stats and we got outshot 16-6 in the second period on Saturday.
That's crazy, and that's you don't want to be upside down like that.
Not that much.
No.
I mean, I could take a 4 or 5 shot swing and you'll probably still come out pretty well.
Absolutely. But and it doesn't matter how good your goaltender is when you have numbers like that. It's going to be you're putting a lot of pressure on him.
Tripled up on shots in one period.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no wonder that they walk out with that many goals in that period.
Oh, absolutely. So I don't know if it's just kind of an emotional letdown or if we're not making the, intermission adjustments.
You can't I heard the same thing when the announcers talked about them being tired, and I'm just like, that's a cop out.
I thought it was too. I didn't get that sense either.
Once you see the third period, you can't argue that, because the team had legs in the third. They got a goal in the third.
Right.
They were controlling the puck. So I find it very difficult to say it's a conditioning thing or that they're tired or
Yeah, it almost seems like it's a mental
really,
breakdown. Yeah.
I think it's just. I mean, it could be systems. It could be. Not that I am saying it is. I'm sure all the comments will start blowing up about how much I hate Gavin or something like that. But not necessarily that it is his fault. But it could be a coaching thing. It could be just, what you say in the intermission, the adjustments that you're making are not the adjustments that you need to make, or what you're looking at as a coaching staff that you need to modify from first period to second period. You're looking at the wrong stat. You're looking at the wrong place. You're paying too much attention to maybe the wrong area of the game, or emphasizing the wrong area of the game. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a coaching thing, but I hope that Gavin
I don't know if it's it's always hard to know from year to year. And obviously we have a new assistant in Paul Gerard this year who defense is supposed to be his thing, and the guy's had experience in the NHL coaching a lot of really good players.
Right.
So I'm hopeful that these guys will be able to fix, because obviously, with a team like Notre Dame coming in
right
this coming weekend, you don't want to have mental breakdowns like that. You don't want to have a period that's,
because it'll be worse than it was on Saturday.
Yeah, where you're basically getting outshot 3-1.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, and I don't know. There's times I saw that 16-6 and went, we really had 6 shots on.
Yeah,
trying to remember them all.
Yeah,
I can only think of like 1 or 2. So
there was definitely a drop, and that's what we've talked about with this team is when they're not scoring. They're a team that can run into trouble. So,
but they didn't give up.
Nope,
they kept fighting,
and they had opportunities in the third.
They had a few opportunities there to tie the game. So
exactly
about the 3-minute mark, and so I mean.
It does make you wonder, though. Are we going to see a UNO team this year that is dependent again on, outscoring their opponents in essentially a gunfight for 3 periods,
Win every game 7-6. Ugh.
Yeah, you remember that Miami game last season. How many goals were there? It was like
I can't take a drink of my beer because we're scoring everything.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to watch as fans, but and obviously that's the kind of hockey that this team has played for a while. So,
and
you can't argue with the offensive production of this team. I mean,
and the challenge becomes, it's obvious that our defense cost us Friday. The tying goal, the third goal, was completely on the guys that were on the ice. The 5 of them, not just the 2 defensemen, but to a man on that ice, not communicating well. And you could even argue a little bit on Evan's part. Like, Evan, to a certain degree, needs to sense that and needs to know that there's someone coming down there, and communicate to his defenseman. Like, someone needs to take him, someone needs to stick check, someone needs to pay attention and get their heads off the boards. And then I don't know, from what I saw with Union on Saturday, Union figured out that you could stretch the D, and they found the seams and the lanes, and our defense didn't do terrible. They just didn't do well enough filling those lanes.
They didn't do what they needed to do.
Right. You didn't need to, you didn't do what you need to do to win. That's kind of what it comes down to is that you had the opportunity. Like, if you score, I always say, if you score 4 goals in a game you should win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was what we talked about with the team last year. If that team doesn't give up an average of 3.72 goals per game last year,
Right.
that's an NCAA tournament team.
Right. Home ice in the first. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, there's a challenge again for Gabnet is how do you make sure that your defense is locked down and that, you're keeping your shot totals on Evan down to something in the more manageable 25 sub 30 range without sacrificing the transition game, without sacrificing the outlet, and without sacrificing offense.
Right. Now, this was the first series where we got to dress an extra player.
And
because of a new NCAA.
Right. One of the new rules is they can dress one non-goalie.
Was it an extra defenseman tonight?
It was an extra forward on Friday and a defender on Saturday. And it clearly didn't help us any on Saturday.
No, it didn't. Having the extra D-man didn't make a difference.
Although I would argue the same thing about Friday. I don't think really having an extra forward made any difference on Friday.
No, exactly. Yeah.
That's kind of one of those new rules, that
it's one of those things. It's kind of a wash. Yeah.
I get good. If there's an injury, I still got a guy, and it will make
if there's an injury or if somebody gets ejected from the game, that type of deal.
And in the past, UNO's had a few players that were that, maybe I'm naturally a wing, but I can play D, or I'm naturally D, but I've got enough skill set that I can play forward. And they've, from game to game, they might have been swapped around or something a little bit.
Right.
But I think that now with this rule change, if that extra player could just be a plug and play kind of kid where if a defender goes down to injury, I can have him play D. If a forward goes down to injury,
right.
I can put him in at a wing.
Well, that's the thing. Did we have that with, was it Riley Alford last season?
Alford last year was the one I remember, yeah.
Yeah, one of those guys who can, essentially be like a little utility or something like that.
Right. So, ultimately, takeaways from the weekend, is the season screwed? Are we...
I don't... Obviously,
should we be worried?
Obviously, if we'd gotten the split like we thought we were going to get, we would be feeling a little bit different right now. Because both of those games could have gone either way, and because we lost tonight, I think it's hard to tell. It's kind of a mixed bag at this point. I'm skeptically hopeful, I think, is where I'm at. The team shows that they can still score points despite losing players that I think were responsible for 51 goals last season. So that's a positive sign.
Right.
But they're still giving up a lot of goals.
Yeah. I think if it was a different coach, I might be a little bit more pessimistic about it. But
right.
I think that Gabnet preaches a system, and he, really talks about responsibility to the players. And so I think that, at least from what I've seen, the things that I see as being wrong and the reason why we lost are things that can be fixed. Because sometimes it's just... you're just outmatched and there's nothing you can do about it. And then there's times where it's like this, like we had the talent to win both games. We had a talent to get the sweep. We just didn't do what we needed to do. And maybe this is the eye-opening, you get these kids that come in going, oh yeah, we just ran track all over Manitoba. And it's like,
right.
Okay, wake up call. These teams are real and they can play too. So you need to go back to the drawing board and take care of business, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have a lot of confidence in Gabinet. That then obviously it's still, the beginning of the season, and it's always tough to go on the road. So, I think this weekend against Notre Dame, you're at home against a really good team. I think that'll kind of give us an indication of where we're going,
right?
Especially in the near term, what the team is going to look like.
So let's talk a little bit about the upcoming game here. I guess before that, we should talk about the new addition to the team before the game, right? The new helmets coming in.
Yeah.
Those goalies, man.
Yeah, the talent of John.
I'm envious.
Yeah, John Sperano. I've known him for several years now. John Sperano has Helmet Head Design, which is a business that designs, I think he does more than goalie helmets. He does other types of helmets too, but he's most known in our circles for the goalie helmets that he does. And he does some beautiful, beautiful artwork on those helmets. And certainly the Mavs have been the players that we here have gotten to see and enjoy the most. Years ago, John, on my Mavpuck site, he would make schedule posters, schedule wallpaper artwork for the fans that they could download from the Mavpuck site, which were really cool. He does a great job. And so Evan Wenninger's new helmet, as many of you know, he has Winnie the Pooh on his helmet because Winnie's his nickname. And this year he's got Winnie the Pooh wearing Humboldt colors, and it says Humboldt Strong across the back. So that was very awesome.
Yeah, and it's the Winnie the Pooh reference is a lot bigger this year than it has been in the past.
Oh yeah, it's the Winnie character is front and center. I mean, he is featured on that helmet.
Or back and center.
He's exactly.
He's back and center, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is definitely a bold statement this year. So
I am looking forward to seeing those, say, in action on the ice this weekend. But let's talk about our expectations and thoughts for the team that's going to be in front of our goaltenders. I'll go out there and say that based on what I saw at Union, I think we get a tie and a loss out of that weekend. That's
okay. So you're saying the results will be similar to this weekend?
I think so.
You could be right on that. It's tough. Notre Dame played in the Icebreaker tournament this weekend, and they beat Mercyhurst and they beat Providence.
That said, they did need overtime to beat Mercyhurst. Yeah, 7-6 in OT.
Yeah, even so though, it's that'll be an entertaining series. We've done well against Big Ten teams the last few seasons.
Right.
I will be interested to see how we do this season. I will be a little bit more optimistic. I'll go with a split. I'll go with a win Friday, a loss Saturday.
A loss Saturday. Okay.
Yeah, kind of the pattern that we saw in some games last season.
There were a lot of Friday wins, Saturday losses last season.
Yeah.
So, well, and to be truthful, in all of college hockey, it's pretty difficult to string together weekend series wins. I mean, it's
absolutely.
These teams are so talented and so close that little things make big differences, and that's why you see a lot of win Friday, lose Saturday, or win Saturday, lose Friday type of situations. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting. We're going up against the runner-up in the NCAA tournament last year. Jeff Jackson is a great coach.
Yep.
I remember, years ago he was at Lake Superior State, did a great job. That was when that program was a kind of a dominant program for a few years in college hockey. Yeah, he's a great kind of grizzled old veteran. So it'll be really exciting to see.
Couple of Frozen Four appearances. Yeah.
Yeah. He's done a good job with that Notre Dame program, and I'll be interested to see how the series goes. I don't know a lot about Notre Dame this season, but
they're like UNO. You've got quite a bit of senior leadership there. Guys that have been through the hall before, especially because of how successful they were last season. These are guys that know what it's going to take to reproduce that result.
Yeah.
That said, we went there last year, and
that was another entertaining series. Yeah. We played that. That was a series that was a back and forth series scoring wise there too, kind of like this Union series. So,
and I kind of in establishing, coming up with, I don't know, pulling out of midair, my prediction for next weekend. I kind of look at basically what would a game between Notre Dame and Union look like, and I think that Notre Dame has more skill. Notre Dame has more size.
They're a bigger, stronger team.
The intangible is that we get Notre Dame here and we don't have to go there.
We don't have to go on the road, absolutely. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, you could be very, very correct in your. I mean, we could get swept by Notre Dame this weekend. I mean, in that,
easily. Yeah.
And then the question, and then what do you start to? And then you. That's the question. Obviously, it's early, but then you start to say, is this a trend? Are we just gonna struggle in the first half? Is it going to be, and we don't know either. Will we have Tyler Weiss back this weekend, which the guy appears to be a playmaker for the team?
Certainly could have been a boost this weekend, and not having him, I think, play Friday, Saturday.
Absolutely.
It changes dynamic
yeah,
of the
he
team,
definitely
right?
is.
Yeah.
He's obviously he's a new player. He hasn't played with these guys more than just a few periods of hockey.
Right.
But he's the kind of player that can be a spark plug that you can put in there and make something happen when you need something to happen. So
right.
That's kind of the intangible factor that we really didn't get to see in action this weekend in a 2-game series. So it'll be interesting to see how that, goes this upcoming weekend. Yeah. But it could be a tough series for us.
Yeah, I think you look at the Union series, you don't really come out of there saying we have to make major changes. We need to be smarter in some areas. We need to shore up some things on defense.
Right, and do some of the little things right. That are going to...
Yeah. But if we get swept by Notre Dame, I think you really have to start looking at something's not working, what needs to get actually fixed.
Yeah.
Not tweaked.
He's going to have to make some line changes. He's going to have to make some lineup changes, and there are some things that are going to have to happen. So
you probably need to look at making some system changes.
Yeah.
Because depending on how we lose and in the results of the goals, what leads up to them, you can argue a lot of different things, and it's hard to say what's to come. Who knows? We could win both games, and then we could look fantastic. I don't know.
The transition game that I thought looked okay on Friday might look spectacular this weekend.
Won't be straight ahead speed. Get me out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And so you have the Notre Dame series coming up, and then they'll have to get ready to go to Arizona State the following week, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not going to be easy down the stretch here. So
no, but it's college hockey. It shouldn't be easy. So
no,
the guys just need to step up and know that, I think our senior leadership knows this. Look, if you want to be a team that's fighting for a top spot in the NCHC, you've got to be better than everyone else. We talked about this and, looking at the pairwise and coming up with that. One of the strengths of NCHC and the reasons why
is the strong non-conference
play. Well, the record,
the results, yeah,
right.
It's the results. So that's you look at you and you want to do well. That's typically what we've done the last several. We do well in October and November playing those non-conference teams,
right?
And then we're in a position at the end of the season, even if we're floating around 500 at the end, we're in a position at least where we're winning those comparisons against other teams in college hockey. Then the question you ask yourself is if we struggle in those games, what will happen? And
right,
you and I at this point don't know, and they don't know either. But
yeah,
but this could be one of those teams that struggles in the first half, and then they're great in the second half.
Yeah, and the other thing is that it changes the complexity of the entire league. I mean, you look at it. We've always had in the NCHC 5-6 teams that were serious contenders for spots in the final 16 to be a tournament team NCAA time, right? And so if you have Miami, if you have Carroll College, and then you add in there Omaha or North Dakota or any one of those teams just slipping for 1 year, that second half of the season where we talked about you just being able to go 500 against NCHC teams and still being able to claim enough
No, yeah.
pairwise points.
Exactly.
Like that goes out the door.
And we haven't, and that's the thing, we have not seen that as
Right.
fans of in this conference.
Since the conference started.
No, it goes back to UNO when they were in the CCHA years and years ago.
Right.
That was a conference where a lot of seasons you only had 2, maybe 3 teams that were going to be good enough in the pairwise to get in the tournament, and everybody else was just average. It was great for a team like UNO because you could rack up wins against some of those opponents, and it created the perception that you may have been better than you were. In this conference, it'll be really interesting if we have a down year, and obviously there's a lot of chapters left to be written this season, but it'll be very interesting to see how all of that plays out.
In a lot of conferences in college hockey, you have top tier teams in that conference, and then you have kind of the rest of the conference,
Right.
But in the NCHC, it's kind of like you have the bottom tier teams, and then you have everyone else who's all got a chance any given year. And we talked about that in episode 1, where we were talking about the rankings and stuff and what we thought for the NCHC. And we both said this, like, this is what we think, but a simple injury could be the difference between us being, right about a team being in a 3rd slot and finding them in the 6th slot.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Western Michigan played Bowling Green this week, and Western Michigan is a team a lot of people think, can be at the top of the conference at the end of the season, and they struggled against Bowling Green. And so, normally you think that a WCHA type foe is somebody that UNO, or not UNO, but Western Michigan or any of the other NCHC teams would, do well, dominate, but that did not happen. So,
yeah, and then you just look at, is it a 1 week thing? Is it just because they had an off night or
early season?
Right. They're still kind of figuring things out. Every once in a while you get a team that hasn't had their exhibition yet. So
exactly,
that's kind of a weird situation because they've just jumped straight in. So, yeah.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see as the next few weeks unfold, and we'll have a better picture when, December rolls around, how this team is going to do.
Right. Well, in that November timeframe, late November timeframe, when we start getting actual pairwise rankings and we can start running numbers and stuff, you start getting a much clearer picture about what do you need to do moving through the rest of the season so that you can be in a place to.
Well, and we'll really be able to start to analyze the team statistically too,
right,
and look at some of those trends that really are kind of indicators for performance. So
it's you never know, some of the, especially with freshmen and the younger players. These are, they may have a great series. They may be, 4 goals on a weekend type of thing. And then the next weekend, they're out of position. They're getting pushed around. They're just not good. And it's this week to week type of thing. Whereas, with your seniors, you expect your seniors to perform consistently week in, week out.
Well, and the other intangible thing to keep in mind as we, look at the team going forward is, I guess where I kind of come down on this is, the last vestiges of that Frozen Four team are not on the roster anymore. So, these guys haven't had a lot of success. So, either they're chomping at the bit to have success, or, it's one of those things where they just haven't known a lot of success and,
Yeah, and for the seniors, you want to go out on a high point. Like, this is it. This is your chance.
Right.
Like, you can't have mental breakdowns and mental mistakes. If you want to leave college saying, I was on a team that made the Frozen Four, or, played in a national championship game or won a national championship, that doesn't happen if you are not consistent night in, night out.
No, and it's really, the impetus has to be on a senior-laden team for those seniors to kind of carry the team on their shoulders and set the tone,
So we'll see how our seniors do. We've got a few of them, so certainly no shortage of senior leadership on this UNO team, so they need to step up and make sure that everyone else on the team knows this is what we need to do to beat a team like Notre Dame next weekend when they come to town.
Absolutely.
And certainly, I think it would help a ton. We talked a little bit last in episode 2, the last episode, about the atmosphere at Baxter and that stuff. So anyone listening to this, if you've got nothing else to do Friday and or Saturday,
Yeah, it should
definitely
be
come down.
Yeah, it should be a great series against Notre Dame. Great marquee opponent. Come out, support the team.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of football action around these parts to be excited about this year, so certainly come out and support the Mavericks.
Yeah, why would you want to watch anything else, right?
Yeah.
Anything else you think we need to talk about before we sign off this week?
No, I think we'll leave it at this. I'm looking forward to the Notre Dame series. We'll be back here to talk about the series, whatever happens, come what may with the Mavs this weekend.
Right. We will be here to give our 2 cents, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, you guys all have fun, and we will talk to you next week after UNO plays Notre Dame.
Thank you for tuning in.